It is your home.
You know, it is my home as far as
You're saying you're rich. It's your home.
and I find that.
Yeah, that's all.
He says you're the best tenant I've ever.
Good evening. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, our clerk will read the roll.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Here.
Omobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present except for Councilwoman Connor.
Okay, thank you. For those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand at this time as we are led in prayer by Councilman Freeman. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilwoman Holland will lead us in the pledge.
God, you've been pretty clear what you have for us to love mercy, show justice, and show great humility in our walk with you. So oftentimes the things that we hear, we easily forget, so we ask that you would bring to mind those things that you would require and desire of us. And even as we love you, we love one another, pray these things in your name.
Amen.
The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Abstain.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Omobian. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
The motion to approve the minutes passes with 2 abstentions.
Before you is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 12-0.
We do have a public hearing scheduled for this evening. Our clerk will read in.
Notice is hereby given that the following open comment public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, July 31st, 2023, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to install continuous curbless parking at 274 Park Street.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. Charter Development Foundation is requesting permission to install continuous parking along Park Street at the northeast corner of the property. The 8 pull-in parking stalls would have evenly straddle the right-of-way line and be directly behind the 6 feet in width sidewalk, which is immediately adjacent to the paved street surface. Petitioner recently replaced all curbs and sidewalks along Park and Union Street at his own expense. Petitioner states that the intent to provide off-street parking for staff while preserving the bulk of the remaining space for outdoor education and a future classroom or administrative building. Planning staff has received concerns from the Traffic Engineering Office that the proposed parking layout could lead to congestion and safety concerns during peak times. School children will be subjected to walking directly between parked vehicles and vehicles on the street, dropping off or picking up other students. Additionally, the parking is in close proximity to the intersection of North Union Street. The planning staff recommended disapproval. However, the Planning Commission recommends approval on the condition that the parking be for back-end traffic for school staff only. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to open up our public hearing. Do we have anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or against item number 1? Just going to ask that you please stand at this time so that our clerk may swear you in.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you.
We will begin with those who wish to speak in favor.
Good evening. My name is John Elzey. I'm an architect with GBC Design, 565 White Pond, Akron, Ohio. I've been working with the Charter Foundation on their recent building improvement. It's 274 Park Street. Charter Foundation has been probably for 20 years improving everything from Perkins down past Park Street, backing up to the new Wendy's and the subway, or excuse me, the Speedway in that area. They own probably all but 4 lots in the center, which they're hoping still to buy. What they've been doing is they've started, they're finishing up a high school program at 274, a new building. We've been finishing up the renovations. The owner, before the city paved the street, went ahead because it wasn't part of the city improvement, has actually replaced all the curbs and sidewalk on Park Street and also on Union in front of their properties. And then fortunately the city came through and did their street improvements that we knew was on schedule for paving. What we're looking for, actually with some of those curb improvements, they've actually improved some of the safety with regards to especially the building on the on the southeast side of Park and Union, that what used to be an auto glass area, and it had curbless parking pretty much all the way around. It was all apron on both sides, even onto Union and Park Street, and we reduced that to just being to where it lines up with the driveway and also with the garage. That is also owned by the same foundation when they're using that for their maintenance building. What we're proposing is on the north side of Park Street, but it's on the appropriate side of the street where we actually think it actually helps with traffic because it takes vehicles off of the street at the intersection and actually puts them off the street. So when people are leaving, there's not there's actually will not be vehicles parked up to the intersection. You have to understand that all these children at this location, there'll probably be, could be potentially around 300 students on the whole campus on four different buildings, probably 100 on the high school that we're just finishing. But with that being said, that none of the children actually walk to the school or walk away from the school. They're either dropped off by their parents or guardians or brought by buses from other locations, little mini buses, not big school buses. So the fact that there will not be children leaving, there was a question earlier today about would high school students be able to leave and walk away from the school, but that's only if they have permission from their parents to leave. Otherwise, they always have to be picked up or taken away by vehicles. So we feel that actually we're more concerned about when the buses, actually a lot of the buses, and I know you can't see this, but I also emailed this to you if you want to put it up on the screen. Most of the buses come in off of Perkins and leave on Park Street, and this is where we're looking to put that back in parking. We actually think by doing that we've eliminated on-street parking at that location for the congestion for people leaving at the end of school. I would be glad to answer any other questions that anybody might have with regards to the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Good evening, sir. I don't know who you are, who just made your presentation. I'm Apostolette, and I'm running for President of the United States of America, and I'm about community building. I am very much in support of the ordinance because I believe that more time and attention needs to be put in organizing and making it, the school area a better place. And I do have one question, Council President. Will the metro transportation be impacted by this? And if so, how? So, for instance, those who come to the school system on SCAT or whatever means. I'm not sure of the community because I'm not from Akron, the Akron area. But as I learn more about the United States in my travels, I want to make sure that those who use other forms of transportation, such as public transportation, have a benefit from this, Council President. And otherwise, I see something very positive actually in this, and I pray that it will be a motivation to encourage parents even to bring their children to school, since homeschooling is a very challenging option these times, because our children need to be in contact and communication with each other, because they need to learn their social skills at this age. There's too much of this privatization, and I pray that this ordinance does pass.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone here wishing to speak against? Seeing and hearing none, we're going to close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what is the committee's pleasure?
Yeah, I'd like to request suspension of the rules with a favorable report. Kamer? Aye. Baylor? Aye. Mosley?
Aye.
The report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for passage.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. I know that we had quite a discussion this afternoon over this proposed curbless parking, and I do know that the Planning Commission recommended approval. I know the ward council person is aware of the area, and they're they approve of this conditional this request as well. And so with that, we're recommending approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian? Aye. Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0.
Okay. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. I will now move into old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
The committee would like to file item number 2. Take time on 3. Through and including 9, file item number 10. And also to file item number 12. And then time on the balance of the agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. Time will be granted. That concludes our old business. We're now going to move into new legislation.
Item number 1, offered by Freeman, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of advertising for bids with Sikich LLP for this purchase of virtual CIO services for the Information Technology Division and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This will allow our IT department to enter into contract with Sikich. This has happened before in the past. With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor? Aye. Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Aye. Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Aye. Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley? Aye. Neal?
Aye.
Amobian? Aye. Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 2, offered by Freeman, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of advertising for bids with GovernmentJobs.com Incorporated for the purchase of NeoGov Human Resources software for the Department of Human Resources and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This will allow the city to enter into an agreement with governmentjobs.com, and this piece of software will work in conjunction with what Personnel Department is using at this time. With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 3, offered by Freeman and Holland. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of advertising for bids with RIP Medical Debt for the purchase of services to assist residents of the city to obtain relief from medical debts and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This will allow the city to enter into contract with RIP Medical in regards to our medical relief program that we'll be hearing more and more about in the coming months. And with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco? We have a motion on the floor,
Second.
and we have a second. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 4, offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Summit Education Initiative for the purchase of services to assess and improve the efficacy of the city's violence intervention and prevention programs undertaken under the American Rescue Plan Act and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's requested this item be referred to our regular agenda.
this item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts for the design of the South Main Street Bridge located between Miller Avenue to Steiner Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 6, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for construction to modernize the elevators in the Cascade parking deck and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Aye. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Omobian. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 7, offered by Mosley. Ordinance ratifying the actions of the Director of Public Service in contracting with Tamarios for the emergency repair and replacement of the wash bay stairs and wash platform at the Municipal Service Center, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 8, offered by Mosley, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Arlington Street between the termini of Erickson Avenue and Munson Street by resurfacing and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. Any further comment?
Nothing further, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 9, offered by Mosley, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini, 2022 Phase 1 Partial Depth Pavement Replacement Program by repaving such streets with asphaltic concrete 402-404 and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 10, offered by Mosley, ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in accordance with Resolution Number 85, 2023, Phase 1 Arterial Collector Resurfacing Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. If there's no further comment,
Nothing further.
all right. Committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 11, offered by Mosley, ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in accordance with Resolution Number 86, 2023 Phase 1 Residential Resurfacing Program, determining to proceed with the improvement and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 12, offered by Mosley, ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in accordance with Resolution Number 87, 2023 Phase 1 Unimproved Street Resurfacing Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 13, offered by Mosley. Ordinance determining to proceed with and levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets in the city between certain termini by providing street cleaning services and street lighting, approving the report of the Assessment Equalization Board, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item 13A, offered by Mosley. Ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of Beardsley Street between the termini of Firestone Boulevard and Archwood Avenue by resurfacing, constructing and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalks and driveway approaches, and installing roof drain pipes, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
The committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Nothing further.
The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 14, offered by McKittrick. Resolution opposing and objecting to the transfer application of B&C Akron Enterprises LTD, doing business as Brandy's Sports Bar, 1890 South Arlington Street, Akron, Ohio, 44306, for a Class D1, D3, and D3A liquor permit, 0346772, now pending before the Division of Liquor Control, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. This is another business in our community that doesn't know how to work with neighbors and be a good business, and I'll yield to Ward 6 Councilman if he has anything else to add.
Thank you so much. Councilman McKittrick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Madam President. This particular area in this business is not this particular owner, but it's been a problem with the previous council person. He had to deal, and they had to oppose the liquor license previously. During COVID, we had continual problems there without a liquor license for 2 years. It's been quiet this year. It's been pleasant down there. The people are happy. The apartments across the street were hit by gunfire on 3 different occasions during the chaos before. This particular business that wants to come in now has had, tonight will be their 3rd event that they've had without a license. And I'm concerned as what they're going to bring in as far as more problems and crime into the area. So that's why I'm asking for all of council to support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any other comments at this time? If not, the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Freeman. Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley. Neal. Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 12-0.
Okay. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We're now going to move to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. If there is anyone here in the audience that wishes to participate, I'm going to ask that you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our clerk.
If you'd like to participate in public comment tonight, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, "I do." I declare. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Just going to ask when you hear your name, please approach the podium. and you will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. We're going to begin with Apostolette.
Good evening again, everyone. I'm Apostolette, and I've been trying to introduce myself to you all a little bit more every time I come. I'm the pastor, founder, and visionary of one of my churches is called No Fear But God Fellowship Assembly. Another one is Proverbial Miracle Power Evangelistic and Missionary Ministries. I have many ministries, many churches with a different theme for each one. And the Secretary of State, Kenneth Blackwell, gave me some paperwork over 20-some years ago, so I don't just come down here randomly. I am also the founder of Mothers' Lives Matter. How many of you in this room really know that mothers' lives matter? I know religion teaches that there was a man who was talking to two other male figures in the creation process, but there was a woman in the creation process. There's always been a woman. And mothers' lives do matter. I know some people have chosen not to have children, but we who have decided to have children, our lives do matter. And on August the 12th, I will be having a resource and an opportunity to make it known. And I welcome the Moms Demand Action and Mothers Against Drunk Driving and all the mothers organizations to come together with me and let's empower mothers. Let's encourage mothers. As I seek the presidential seat for the United States of America, I declare and I decree that it's time for a mother to clean up this mess in this country. And I want to be that mother. I know what works and what doesn't work, and I would like to have resources, communication, and just support for mothers. When I come down here and I speak with you all, not only am I a mother and a grandmother and I'm somebody's daughter, but women still today are not identified with as we should be. We're not recognized, we're not respected, we're not empowered, and we need something for the mother. It's not that a woman is to be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. It's not that a woman is supposed to be subject to just what a man tells her to do, because women are the power in the decision-making processes. I ask you, as I seek this presidential seat, to help me empower families, and this includes the mother. I thank you so much, and I do have other entities in place. I do have No Bad News Network, and I have many other entities, and I have options under my leadership for this presidential seat because the government became destructive to the people. So I have a right, a responsibility to alter and or abolish it until it is productive for the people. Thank you so much. My phone number is 330-428-9191. God bless you. And God bless you.
Thank you, Apostolette. Reverend John Beatty.
Before I begin my allotted 3 minutes, Madam President, I'd like to share this with Freeman, and maybe he could share it with the rest of the council members. It's my ideas about how we're going to survive what's happening around the world and in our community. Madam President and members of the City Council, I'm Reverend John Beatty, 2047 Window Road, Ward 8. The Greek language has two terms to describe time: chronos and kairos. Chronos means ordinary time, like we keep track on our clocks. Kairos means existential, decisive time, when it's time to make an important, possibly life-saving decision. Brothers and sisters, we are in Kairos time, when we must make so many important, life-saving decisions, especially in this council. We already have made some. We have voted as the voters of Akron to give our fellow citizens of Akron oversight of their taxpayer-supported police department. Our Kairos moment continues as the City of Akron administration and its police department struggle to keep self-control in the police department and control of this oversight body that's supposed to be oversight of the police. Control is kept by alternating carrots and sticks. Already, some on this independent body are hinting at a pay increase for all the time its members are consuming as it makes Kairos decisions. When an organization's members decide to enhance their financial rewards from the city even before one citizen's complaint is resolved, that organization is headed for irrelevancy and a reputation for self-serving. I hope that they will not go that way. Even more important is the Kairos time Mother Nature is forcing upon us. Consistent, record-setting heat seasons, not only in our desert Southwest, where even the desert plant, the giant saguaro cactus, is dying, but also in unheard of places like Alaska, Antarctica, Canada, Siberia, where the glaciers are disappearing and the permafrost is melting, throwing off massive amounts of methane and carbon dioxide into our atmosphere, and where uncontrollable forest fires up in Canada are poisoning our air here in Akron. Meanwhile, our oil and gas and coal industries and our power companies are making record profits, polluting our air, water, and land with global warming smoke and radiation from atomic power plants operating far beyond their engineered lifespan. All this to keep our air conditioners and our energy bills at record levels. We must take advantage of this Kairos time by massively turning to sustainable, renewable energy in our homes, industries, businesses, transportation, and city, state, and federal governments. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty. Dwayne Strong.
Good evening, everyone. Not long after Juneteenth, I came and addressed the council, representing the family of a young man who was shot at the Juneteenth event. And here I am again. Last night, a young man was shot and killed on the streets of Akron again. And to me, there's not really much being done about it. There's a gun violence task force out there targeting the young kids, taking their guns, sending them to Dan Street, send them back home to their families with an ankle bracelet on, and they're out there doing it again. When are they going to use some of these resources to target the adults that are enabling these kids, the parents that are allowing them to lay up and sell weed and skip school and do things of that nature? Let's get to the root cause of what's going out here so that our young kids could quit dying out here on our streets every month. This is getting crazy. As a young man that grew up here in Akron in the 80s and 90s, to see this now breaks my heart. These kids don't know what to do. They're in so deep and they can't get themselves out of it. These days of social media and all this crazy stuff that's going on is killing our kids and nobody's doing nothing about it. I know that there's a forensic unit that can target with algorithms to get to these sites and see what these kids are out there doing. They're not making threats. They're acting on it live every day, and nothing is being done about it. We're just letting the kids die and react after the fact. They can stop this stuff before it happens if they put their minds and their resources to it. I know it can happen. I don't have a young man out here in the streets, but I see it happening every day, and it just breaks my heart because I used to be one. And I was able to go through Akron public schools, get a decent education, get out of here and do okay. These kids don't have a chance in Akron right now. I don't know what can be done. I'll be a part of anything that you guys could think of to be done, but something has to be done to stop this. Our babies are dying every day, and it ain't just the boys, the girls are involved in this as well. When are we gonna do something about it? You guys gotta care. It's not happening in Elliott. It's not happening in Wallhaven, Fairlawn Heights. It's happening in these inner city neighborhoods and nobody gives a crap, and it frustrates me inside to see it happen to Akron, a city that I love and grew up in. Let's please do something to help our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strong, for sharing. Vicky Shockey.
Hello, my name is Vicky. Excuse me, I'm sorry. My name is Vicky. I am in partnership with Apostolate from Moms Lives Matter and Mothers Lives Matter. I am a mom, I am a grandma, and a great-grandmother. But my thing tonight is about discriminating and communication. The discriminating for people like Apostle and I both have witnessed. If she brings up something they don't speak to me, or if I bring up something, they don't speak to her. And it's not only around you people, it's around other people. And it needs to get some kind of control on this, because it's being unfair to each individual that goes through this. And something needs to be done, because it's affecting a lot of people. And this is why people are so against each other and fighting each other, because there's no kind of communication for people to grip to and hold on to and appreciate and respect. There's no appreciation, there's no respect. You know, what happened to our rights? It's like our rights are being taken away. You know, I got labeled for domestic violence, and I'm not a violent person. Paul Salette has had things put on her, you know, but they put us at a bottom level. We're human, we have feelings, we have rights, but it seems like our rights are being taken away from us. That's all I have to say. I wish to see some changes.
Vicki, thank you for sharing. Carl Buck.
Thank you. Have a nice week.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Madam President. My name is Carl Buck, and I'm embarrassed to bring my minor complaint after your impassioned plea about the inner city youth. I wanted to voice my request. I requested last year to the city. We had 2 races on our street which we were not notified of. 2 marathons, 2 5K and 10Ks. All I asked was we get notified at least a week or 2 in advance. This year I went to my council person who told me that I should mark it on my calendar. It's never the same. I wouldn't know when it was coming. All we're asking is that if the city can't notify us, because I know the city, if they're giving up the street for a race, has to be notified, and there were police at the bottom of the street directing traffic, then the organization that's organizing it should have to let us know a couple weeks in advance. I canceled a yard sale because I didn't want the cars in the street for the runners going down the street. It doesn't seem like much to have them come out. The only other complaint I have is tonight is about the Riverwoods, and I don't know if any of you have driven down to the Riverwoods. I call it a war zone. What they've done to the trees and the nature down there and if you drive in there, it looks like Fort Polk, Louisiana. It looks like a Marines barracks base, which isn't the same as Fort Polk, but you get my point. It's sad to see, and that's all I have to say, and I'm really sorry about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buck, for bringing that to our attention. Acacia Reynolds.
Hello, Council, Madam President. I spoke to you last week about prejudice, and I would like to continue on that topic, because in Ward 3, we do see a lot of socioeconomic prejudice as well as racial prejudice. I am not sure how many of you may watch a show called East New York. It's fairly recent, in the past couple of years. But the first thing that they did was to offer rental vouchers to police officers to live in these minority communities. I can tell you, because my parents live across the street from a police officer, that this changes the whole dynamic of how the community sees the police force. My parents' neighbor, who frequently watches the police officer's children when he is at work, was at another neighbor's house and had a heart attack. He was off that day. He was able to be over there in seconds and tell the first responders that this is a real emergency and they need to get there fast. He was able to communicate with them, and my parents' neighbor got the help that she needed when seconds matter, not minutes. But that being said, that community looks a whole lot better on police officers than a good portion of the Akron communities that I've been in. I would have to agree with that approach. Hopefully we can do it a little bit better than they did on TV for, dynamic effect. But why can't we get incentives for our officers to live in these minority communities and build trust? You act a lot different when you're at home than you would in a professional setting. I would like for us to look into these ideas, see if they can't be instated here in Akron. Because the whole issue that the communities seem to have with the police officers is trust. And you will trust your neighbor a lot more than some faceless person who comes at you with a gun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Reynolds. William Reynolds?
Yet again, I plan what I'm going to say, and someone says something, and it goes kind of out the door, although this time it relates. I've recently been challenged personally, spiritually. I'm a Christian. I've been challenged to follow the second greatest command, and this applies to people in general, not just Christians. Love your neighbor as yourself. I almost want to stop there because that's all you got to say. I believe that you all want to make changes in Akron. Inner city youth need help. We need to intervene in some way and help these parents that maybe weren't taught right, or maybe are having trouble handling their children, or whatever's wrong. They need help. So the other part I wanted to talk about was the American dream. The American dream is the ideal by which equality of opportunity is available to any American, allowing the highest aspirations and goals to be achieved. The country would offer equal opportunity to everyone, regardless of their current social or economic standing. The reason I bring that up is at some point I'm going to be writing something to share with you about my dream. We have a body here that all have different priorities, but we try to work together. Over the last several weeks, I spoke about, and my wife has spoken about, our issue with our vehicles and the $15 non-refundable deposit to appeal such things. I spoke to someone and they were like, oh, $15, that's nothing. Well, the problem is, at that time, I couldn't find $15 to put in my gas tank, let alone to appeal. That system needs fixed. Honestly, I understand why there's a non-refundable deposit, but I believe it should be changed. If any part of your appeal is found to be credible, you get your deposit back. That way, you're not paying a fee for the inspector, officer, or whatever to do their job correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds, for sharing that with us. Ms. Schreiber?
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of council, I'm here to implore your help with the policy with the Akron Water Department. I just went through a crazy 4 days, and I'm here for some kind of resolution. I went home on a Tuesday to take a shower and found out I didn't have any water. It was after 5. So I waited the next day and I called the water department. And they vetted me. Are you current on the bill? Yes. Why didn't you call us yesterday? Well, when did you, no, forgive me. When were you out of water? Sometime yesterday. Well, why didn't you call us yesterday? Well, it's my understanding I called 311 and you were not open. And she said, well, we have a dispatcher on call. Well, that's good news. Didn't know that. Is that publicized somewhere? Well, okay, thank you, so you can see. So you know what? I started out with, you know what? Things happen. Let's just get it fixed, right? So I go outside, and there's work done on my street, and they're installing new cable. And I said, you know, guys, you're my only variable. I don't know if you had anything to do with this, but you're my number one suspect, okay? So at any rate, they said, probably. So at any rate, I call, they go, we'll call the water department. I said, well, I just did. And oh, and the dispatcher's supposed to be in a half hour. Well, they didn't show, okay? All right, so now I go back in and call again. And I said, and I did give extra information. I said, well, you know, they're having some work done. I don't know if they have anything to do with it or not. And she said, well, we're not paying for it, ma'am. We're not paying for it. I'm like, you know what, I just want water. Please help me with the water. So didn't have water the next day. So found out a lot about this whole situation. I was without water for 4 days, okay? Day 1, it's like, okay, things happen. Day 2, okay, things happen, let's just fix it. Day 3, I'm kind of frustrated because I'm going out and buying water, right? Day 4, I am like not happy, okay? So I found out a lot, which I'll spare you, but I'll be happy to fill you in on the details. So at any rate, I called the water department because I feel I should get some reimbursement for this. And what the line of the water department is, well, ma'am, we can't credit you any water because you didn't get any water, which is a true accounting principle, as you may know. But fortunately for me, I actually called the water department several years ago because I needed how to budget, and it was never consistent. And they told me how it worked. In fact, there is a charge for a base charge, and then it's based on usage, like most companies. And then you're charged at 1 cubic foot, right? So at any rate,
Ms. Schreiber, I'm so sorry, but your time is up, but I do know what your issue is. See this gentleman right here, Mr. Lutto, he's gonna help you.
Okay.
Okay, so he'll talk with you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're so welcome. I do believe we have one individual online, Frank Henderson. Mr. Henderson, can you hear us?
Madam President, it looks like he's logged off.
All right, well, that concludes our public comment period for this evening. We'll now move to our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Freeman. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
2:15.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman. Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman Neal?
Madam President, I just want to stand and thank those who came down to share their points of concern. I want to echo Mr. Strong's concerns, because this council chamber has been hearing this, and the frustrating thing is we have not even convened to see what we can do. We haven't had any conversation, and it seems like each time say something on the floor, a week later, unfortunately someone either loses their quality of life or loses a life. And then we still sit here silent. So now we're going to go on recess for a month. How many lives are going to be impacted? How many lives are going to be lost? And we haven't shown any urgency. School starts before we get back. I thought it didn't start till September, but it starts before we get back. And I understand, I'm not trying to speak anything into existence, but when you know it's my responsibility to say something, hell is going to break loose and it's going to reach our schools. This hell that's out on our streets right now is going to reach our schools. And we have not even had a conversation with the school board on what we're going to do. Last year during sporting events, gunshots fired. We never even came together to have a conversation on what are we going to do to stop it. It's so bad now that some people, thankfully they're smart enough, they're following social media and they're saying, check on your family, there's a shooting on such and such street. Check on your family, there's a shots fired over here. If you are anywhere close to this, you know, some children used to be excited first day of school. Some children are traumatized because they know they got to sit next to somebody who's a shooter. I'm asking, how can we go on recess? How can we go on recess and not address this issue? I mean, I feel like Mr. Hargrove. Will somebody answer me? Does anybody feel the pain of Mr. Strong and the rest of the community that comes up here and talks to us about the shooting and the killing that's taking place? I was talking to my colleague. Her elders can't even sit on their own front porch. Help me before, because what I want to say, it's good that we're going to recess, because I don't know how many times I can stand up here and be respectful. When I sit in a seat that's supposed to be able to make a difference, and nothing. You don't feel it? Do you think I'm here just talking just to hear myself talk? I represent a community that is feeling this pain every day. And they look for me to come talk to you who represents other parts of the community who I'm sure are concerned and are asking us for solutions. And nothing. It would be beautiful to have someone else stand up besides me, Councilwoman Mosley, Councilwoman Amobian, I know my time is up, but because we have not addressed this issue. There are children and families whose lives have been changed forever. Communities that are traumatized forever because we come here, we don't do anything.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Is there another comment at this time? Councilman Lombardo?
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to give some props to our Akron Police Department and the community engagement team. On July 19th, the community engagement team were following up on a complaint at a residence in Akron. And during this interaction, the grandmother of these 3 children relayed to the officers that her grandchildren's bicycles were stolen. 3 bicycles, 3 children. So that was an unrelated incident of, why they were there. But the community engagement officers recognized the opportunity to connect with the children there, and lo and behold, came through with 3 bicycles a few hours later. Delivered them to the children, and obviously made them happy, made their summer. So just wanted to pass that along to everybody, and thank you, Akron Police, for doing what you do.
Thank you, Councilman. Is there anything else coming before this body at this time? Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, thank you. 2 things. First of all, in terms of not doing anything in reference to the youth violence, to say that we're doing nothing at all, I have to respectfully disagree. We do have, the administration has committed $10 million to youth violence. We had a robust discussion this afternoon in reference to that, and how we're going to measure and how we're going to ensure that hopefully in the future this is going to be sustained over time. And there's a path that has been developed in terms of just that. And also, I wanted to also point out that, in 2 years ago, 1,200 guns were taken off the streets. And last year, 980 guns were taken off, illegal guns were taken off the street. But we live in a land where our state and our federal government, no matter what the statistics are, even if you read last week's paper, there was 2 articles in the paper in reference to guns and reasonable gun control within our land of Ohio. And there, talk about silence. If we could regulate guns here in the city of Akron, I think we would do that in a heartbeat. We would do it right now. It's the illegal guns that something's got to be done with. And I also know that it starts upstream. And so, and I believe that's what that $10 million is going to be used for. So with that, and it does, you have a heart. If you, every one of us, whenever we pick up the paper, whenever we hear of a family being torn apart, it hurts all of us. And we feel that. And God, I wish there was something more we could do, and we would. I also wanted to announce that it's been a couple years now, we have been working, Emily Collins and Pat Sullivan, myself, many in the cabinet and the staff, and we've talked about this, and that's a riparian ordinance. Later this week, there's going to be an announcement in terms of how the community can look into this riparian ordinance, and how we can solicit their input in reference to that. Of course, a riparian ordinance is meant to enhance and protect our waterways here in the city of Akron, and it's been a couple years now that we've been working on that. We're also going to be reaching out to the council members as well in terms of soliciting input and educating them during the month of August in terms of this riparian ordinance itself. And again, later this week, we're looking forward to getting that that information from the administration via, I understand, a press release possibly, and we'll begin to that process as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Madam President, I just wanted to stand up because it's the kind of response from my colleague that is the bullshit that takes place in this horseshoe that is, I've had it. We have not $250 million have come into this city. How many meetings has council and the school board had in regards to the violence that is impacting our children, Mr. Fusco? Since we're doing something, tell me, maybe I missed a meeting. How many meetings have we had as council and the school board to set a plan to address the issues that are impacting our children on the street and in the school? Maybe I missed that meeting. Please tell me. It's good that we're giving some money to these organizations to improve their program. But Ms. Tamika Rose said herself, this will not address the youth violence. So tell me, out of the $250 million that's not of our regular budget, that the school system got and the city got, we talk about collaboration. What have we done to come together to address youth violence? We have done nothing. We have not even had a meeting to discuss it. It's unconscionable. And you know what? I'm tired of you getting up every time after I say something.
Councilman Neal, I'm going to ask you to refer your comments to the chair.
I'm tired of my colleague getting up every time after I say something when it's lies. This council and the school board have done nothing. If I am lying, tell me so. The sense of urgency in this horseshoe is missing. And maybe it's because it's not your neighbor or your son or your daughter. I cannot believe the insensitivity that comes out of this horseshoe towards the community that has experienced the gun violence that's experienced. But I'm asking again, since we have done something, please tell me, because maybe I missed the meeting. When did council come together and put together a plan? To my understanding, there's been maybe 2 plans to address violence, maybe 3 that came from here. And I believe all of them have come from either myself or Councilwoman Mosley to address gun violence. Let's put them on the table. The plans that have come from the members of this council to address gun violence. I'm not talking about those that have come down through the administration. I'm talking about those that have been birthed from this legislative body to address gun violence. Let's take a look at our work. We have done nothing. And if I'm wrong, and something comes forth to prove me wrong, I'm willing to admit it. But I tell you this, nothing has come out of here that we've brought to the community. And if there is something, please state it now.
Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe school starts on August 15th. I think I would be remiss if I don't remind us all of how many times the schools last year have been put on lockdown because of a gun in the school. Someone had a gun in the school, or they found bullets in the school. Right before school closed this following year, they had an incident over at Garfield. They had quite a few at East that we didn't even know about. I only know about them because I have nieces and nephews at that school. Firestone has had countless of them that they've tried to be quiet about, but they're having issues as well. We all should be concerned about our kids going to school, and this is the reason why, as much as we all cringe when we hear about charter schools and homeschooling, there's a reason why parents are pulling their kids out. And it's not about the education, it's about their safety at this point. Every year I would get up and say the same thing over and over, saying, summer's coming, summer's coming. I don't even say it anymore because it's like I say it, but it means nothing. We have young people in our community who have guns. We're not talking about legal gun owners. We're talking about kids with guns, and they're coming from somewhere. There's an adult somewhere in this city that is putting guns in these kids' hands. And they are exterminating a whole entire generation with guns that they shouldn't even own. I want to put a name in you all's head and remember this, because I'm going to always remember it. Ernestine Stallings. We called her Ernie. It's my little cousin who didn't bother anybody, who went into a Dollar Tree to buy balloons for a birthday party. How many people have been killed since she died, and they still have yet to find out who killed her, and she didn't bother anybody. Yet we do nothing. We sit here and we talk about it, and we talk about these different organizations getting money. I want to know how many lives they've saved since they've gotten that money, because I don't see it. Every time I turn on Facebook, it's somebody with an obituary up about some young person who's died because some other young person has a gun who shouldn't even own it, because there's some adults out here in this city putting guns in their hands. And what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because so far we've done nothing, and it hurts.
Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you, Madam President and fellow members of council. It's difficult to sit and listen to accusations hurled that somehow in the presence of magical powers and the ability to do something about the greatest tragedy of our collective lifetimes, that we have instead chosen to, I don't know, buff our nails or look the other way. If you live in the city of Akron right now, you cannot possibly be unaffected by gun violence. It does not have to be your child. It does not have to be your mother, your father, your brother or sister for you to care. Indeed, it is the essence of being a decent human to care whether or not something has happened to you yet. But there are a few preliminaries that I think that as intelligent people we need to be reminded of. During the what's sometimes referred to as the silly season, just about every politician in sight made huge, shiny, sparkly promises about schools without regard to whether or not that individual was running for the school board. Now, why does this matter? Because it is fact that legally, the city of Akron and the Akron Public Schools are legally separate entities. This does not preclude our working together, certainly does not, and I think we all want the same thing. But let's get real clear here. City Council can no more direct how Akron Public Schools does its job than Akron Public Schools can tell us how to conduct a city council meeting. Now, right now, in this conversation, that feels bad. But in fact, it is meant to offer us many different avenues and many different layers of expertise and consideration for solving hard problems. And it's reality, which is always good to know. Now, I hadn't been in my job more than maybe a month and a half when I reached out to the law department and said, Okay, I understand that Ohio and federal law preempt the city of Akron's ability to regulate guns. I get that because, I don't know, I know a thing or two about the law, right? But how about ghost guns? How about these unregistered guns that, in that sense, aren't even guns? They don't actually exist. And check in with those you know in the police department, here or in other places. Ghost guns are a thing. They're of grave concern. And this should be something we can take action on, right? But this is the thing. Our hands here on this council, in this room, have been so tied by special interests that have names. National Rifle Association, I am talking to you. And foreign agents who've worked through these large lobby organizations. So I will not sit here as a mother, as a grandmother, as a daughter, sister, and a wife and a neighbor, and be accused of doing nothing. Because nothing could be further from the truth. And I stand ready to not only help with the legislation that can work around these existing hurdles, but I would cordially invite my colleague to show me the legislation that's been proffered in the 2 years I've been here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Holland. Is there anyone else wishing to speak that hasn't had an opportunity to do so? Councilman Neal?
Madam,
This will be his last comment.
Madam President, a couple of things. One, members of this council brought in legislation instructing the school board on how to conduct their business. We could pull that legislation up. Two, as far as, I'd ask Madam Clerk to please send all of council the resolution that came in urging council and the school board to set aside 10% of their money to fund wraparound support to address this issue that this council didn't even take the courtesy to read and discuss, but voted down, and didn't bring in substitute. Didn't bring in a substitute to address the issue. No substitute. And my request is still on the floor. Show me where we have brought in any legislation to address this issue. I've asked the clerk to produce the one that came in, not two years ago, came in, losing track now, came in last year, that this council voted down. Didn't even take time to read. And since that time, how many lives have been lost and impacted? This is not political. You could go back 10 years. The Neighborhood Resource Center that was passed. This council passed the legislation. It was the one piece that the community, the county, the school system, the police department, and the administration and council all worked on because we were going after the burn grant. But where's that mobile resource center? Where's the mobile resource center?
Right.
So the question was asked, please produce for my colleague the legislation so that she can understand. I know she's new on council. But the information is here. And my question still sits for this council. Maybe I missed the meeting. Where is the legislation that we passed? And we do have the right to work with our school board because remember we have CLCs, not just schools, community shared resources that we could fund to provide programming.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. I just want to take an opportunity to address the fact I want you to know that I am not insensitive to what's happening and how gun violence is impacting our community. And in fact, I probably see on a more close up and close personal benefit as a funeral director every day when I have to sit down with a mother who has to bury their child. right? Or a young child that doesn't understand why they see their father in the casket and they don't understand what's happening. I get it. I know what's going on, but to stand up and say that this body has not done anything, it is this body who hired a youth coordinator, right, who is supposed to be his job every day to get up in the morning and think about how we can curb gun violence in our community. We have tried to use ARPA dollars to fund groups that are doing the work trying to help us in this effort. We're getting ready to launch a Ring doorbell camera program where we can give cameras to people so that they have a little sense of safety while sitting on their porches. We are trying to do it, but the reality of it is that we cannot solve it around this horseshoe. Mr. Strong said it himself, it starts in the home. We've got to figure out how can we hold these parents accountable? How can we give them some resources and support services to help them with their children? It's not going to be solved here. It's not going to be solved here in the month of August. It is a very complex issue, but it's going to take all of us. But we cannot do it when we stand up and we insult one another and we point the finger at one another. That's not how we're going to solve the issue. I do want to give an opportunity for Gert Williams to also address council.
I too would like to thank council for hiring Danico, who does work on this every day. And part of what Danico has done is work with the Akron Public Schools, work with our community partners to try and come up with solutions to this problem that impacts this community entirely too much. What Danico is asking of this is to help him with that role. He has reached out to each one of you personally to sit down and talk about the updated strategic plan. I would ask you to do that. He is open to suggestions. He is open to your thoughts, your consideration, and what truly is impacting your neighborhoods. So there is a plan. It might not be council's plan, but there is a plan. So I would ask you to take the opportunity to meet with Danico. I would like to correct the record on Tamika Rose's comments. Tamika's comment was, it would not impact today. It's not going to be a measurable impact today. But eventually, working on it, growing, talking about it, there will be measurable impacts. And how do we measure that? And that was part of the conversation we had today with how do we do that? Why do we do it? And how is it so important for this community that that measure takes place? So there are opportunities. Is there more we can do? Absolutely. Are there conversations that still need to take place? Absolutely. But take advantage of what we have. Work with Danico, set a meeting, have that conversation, and we are all open to it. You can contact me anytime as your prosecutor. We were very open to conversations at any time. Same with the police department, any time. Do not hesitate to reach out. If somebody's not returning your phone call, please let me know so I can be the intermediary there. But again, there is currently an updated strategic plan. Danico is trying to get on everybody's calendar to have that one-on-one conversation, an update to council, whatever you'd like, Madam President, please let us know. But do not stop talking about it, stop working on it, working together on it. It takes all of us. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. If there's nothing else coming before council, before we do that, I do want to make an announcement that council will be on recess, just on recess. Again, we work all throughout the month. The only difference is we will not be here on Monday nights at 7 o'clock. We will come back in session September 11th. If there's nothing else coming before. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Have you received any requests for a joint meeting?
No.
Okay, thank you. I make a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Okay, nothing else coming before this body. Meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.